Obviously disappointed over the loss on Saturday, but we get a week off here now. We've had 3 games to evaluate and get a chance to just really look at what our issues are. We had some issues there on defense. Offensively, he's good enough to put up a lot of points, but he had 2 critical penalties, 2 turnovers there that would stop the drive. But I told our coaches that on defense and even some of our offensive coaches, now we can evaluate just where we are and making sure that we move forward, make sure that we give our players something they can do and give them a chance to go compete and have a chance to be successful. You look at it, there's a lot of players that we know obviously need to be playing. A bunch of young players need to be playing, and we'll be able to work that out and get it fixed here in the next couple of weeks.
Question? Right here on the left with Kirk.
Charlie, does that mean you're planning no changes with your staff at all, and are you going to be more involved on the defensive side?
Well, we have 2 weeks to look at it, and I've been involved in the defense. I can get more involved, and I will be more involved. And, it goes back to just accountability. And I told our coaches that you're a direct reflection of your position. And I expect, each and every week when we go out to compete that, coaches are held accountable just like I'm held accountable for how this team goes out and perform. But we all are accountable, and we need to coach better, need to coach harder, and be a lot smarter.
Coach, now that you had a chance to look at tape, how much of the defensive woes were execution? How much of it was scheme?
I look at it, Dennis, and I look at the 3 plays that we gave up. The first touchdown, it should have been a guy over the top, a guy underneath the ball. Shouldn't have been a ball kind of hung there. It should have been ball shouldn't have never been completed. But they took the ball down the field. Then I look at the second one, the breakdown on our sideline. Where we had a squat corner, got to get over the top of that, but it was a check call there. But things can be fixable. That can be fixed. And then the last one, they ran a wheel route with a dig. We broke on the dig, and then the wheel route was wide open. But those things that can be fixable. So it's nothing that it's nothing that's drastic that had to do with the scheme. It was more of just playing it and being smart about how we played it.
Charlie, when you say younger players, I would assume that means more Hager, more Roach. And what about Brandon Jones? How does he fit in there?
We will see, and you start off the second half, and I love Hager and I love Roach because I love the energy and the passion that they bring to it. We had 2 sacks, and it was sacks by those 2 guys. And then I look at Brandon Jones. If you watch him on kickoff, he goes down, the first one makes the play, then they try to double him. He's all over the place, and he goes and blocks a punt. And he's someone that you got to get on the field, you got to see more of because he's a playmaker, and he plays the game you like the way for it to be played. But you want to see a lot of those guys, and you'll see them because they've earned the right to play.
Charlie, how concerned are you as far as the defense and where they are at this point? And is this the most concerned you've ever been? You obviously have a long relationship with Vance. You guys have had the #1 defense. Just where is this thing in your mind and level of?
Chip, the defense can be fixed, and I'll get more involved, and we'll get it fixed. And if you look at it, what's this? You take the first drive and they march it down the field. You get them to 3rd down. You have to get off the field on 3rd down, and we'll allow them to complete the ball. And then that allows the drive to continue. And then you look at the big plays. I said to him, I was looking at it yesterday morning when we got back. We gave up just too many big plays, and the thing about it is just putting guys in position where they make plays and just demanding that they do it. And it has a lot to do with, and I told our coaching staff that was on us. And it was on us big time, and we could have got our players to play better. And so, like I said, it's accountability, and it comes back to us. But the defense, it can be fixed. It's not. It's going to be. You're going to play some outstanding offenses. They're going to make some plays. But the thing about it is, you just can't give up the big plays that we gave up and expect to go win, and especially go win on the road. That's what's disappointing.
Does that mean you calling the defense?
Well, we got 2 weeks to look at it, Chip, and so once we look at it in 2 weeks, we'll know exactly where we are and what we need to get done.
Charlie, on that note, on the call this morning, you said each coach will be evaluated over the next 2 weeks. Is that something special, or what do you mean by that specifically?
Well, we've got 3 games under our belt, Mike, and so it's all about evaluation, and we do. We got to look at ourselves and just see exactly where we are and how we can get better. because we can all improve, and we can all be better than what we actually are. And I always feel like this: we all have just unlimited potential inside of us, but let's bring it out of us. Let's not, sometimes it takes a loss for that to come out of you, when a lot of times you like to see that happening all the time, and you don't see it happening all the time. So when I said, hey, we need to be evaluated, let's look at ourselves, and let's sit down and let's talk about it and just see how much better we can be. Because it goes, like I said, it goes back to accountability. You're a reflection of your position.
Back on the right, Rick.
Charlie, good to see you.
Good to see you.
In Shane Buechele's case, what is it about kids with famous fathers that you like, that have been successful on, a level like that?
Well, you look at it, and the thing about Shane and his dad with Steve is that, Steve himself was an athlete, and then he was able to come up in an athletic family. You look at his two brothers and his two sisters. So I always, I go back to I have a young daughter, and it was almost like they were always the one who was carrying around the bag. And when you go to a competition, they're standing over just hitting the ball off the wall by themselves or playing catch by themselves, where they just try to stay active because they didn't want to watch their big brother, big sister play. But the thing you like about Bushi is he just has that demeanor about him, where he's so calm. He has that silent confidence about him, and the way he carries himself, even he just makes everybody else around him so much better because he knows how to handle himself. And so when you do place him in a tough position, he knows how to go compete, and he has an edge about him. And the players, they see it. When they see that edge about him, that's why they respect him so much.
How are you able to go into a predominantly Oklahoma Sooner family and convince them to let their kid come here?
Well, it was tough in the beginning, but the thing we did was, we got on him early enough where we were able to get him committed, and he stuck to the commitment, and which was, really big on their family's part, because they said it's all Oklahoma. Even his two sisters, when I took the picture, I made them put the horns up there and said, "Coach, one time can we do it with it down?" And I told him, I said, "Listen, since I'm getting your brother, we can let that happen." But now we done turned that family, so we got them all. They're all Horns now.
Rear on the left, center.
And Charlie, how was your team when you talked to them in the last meeting, and also how can you use the tough times from the past to fix what's going on, and will that be able to help them deal with this?
Well, it's sad, I like to think, and which is true, is that I just have a different team right now, and I have a team that is much more mature now, and I have a team that has been through it, so they've been through those tough losses. So, now that they've been through it, know that they'll be able to bounce back. As soon as we landed, I think we got back probably about 6:45 yesterday, Sunday morning. So I met with them right when we got back, and I told them, I said, we'll learn from this. It's a team loss. When we win, everybody's happy. When we lose, then we all got a piece of the blame. So we had these 2 weeks to get ready, and we got a tough opponent. But the good thing about it is our conference starts now, guys. So everything starts. So our goal is in front of us. We said that we want to go win the conference, so now we have a chance to go do it. It starts on the road again. I said, so the tough thing, now we got to go back on the road, and now it's up to us as a coaching staff to get them ready to go play on the road, and we got to be able to handle adversity. And I said, this is a tough conference, and it's going to be a tough game for us.
In the middle.
Coach, for as long as you've been in this game as a defensive mind, could you have ever imagined 50-47, 50-43, and really how frustrating is it to you as a defensive coach the way the game has changed?
Well, it's tough, Bob, and what's frustrating, it still comes down to fundamentals and technique, and at the end of the day, and it just guys, placing them in position to have some success. And when you give up that many points, and especially when, I always looked at it from the standpoint, if I can get anywhere from 24 to 30 points on offense, I should go win the football game. I should win the game. And then for us for that to happen, and it wasn't like, I guess what's frustrating is they didn't take the ball and just march it down the field. It's balls thrown up over your head, which that should never happen. Because you got to be able to play the ball in the air, you have to have good coverage, and you have to be able to just we're athletic enough to cover people. We have talent, and so that should have never happened. And we have to play much better.
Back here on the left, John.
Coach, you said you've been involved in the defense, and you're going to get more involved in the defense. What has been your role up to this point?
Well, what it is, John, is like I said in the meetings, and so when when we go through the defensive calls and they look at it, I'm sitting there and I pitch in what I feel like that we need to go do and what we have making sure that everybody has an understanding. But once once I leave out of there, then it's they go out and I don't get involved so much in telling them, hey, this is what we have to go do. I'm sitting in the meetings and I'm listening to everything they're saying.
Coach, you say the defense is fixable. Do you think there's enough time for it to fix when you have the likes of Texas Tech, Oklahoma, those kinds of offenses coming up?
Oh, I think you have plenty of time to get it fixed because if you look at it and, you look at what happened the other night, it's just that you just can't have, like I keep going to, you got to make them earn every yard that they get. And that's what we're not doing. We're allowing the big plays. And I think, just on Saturday, like I counted up, I think it was probably 11 big plays, 9 passes, and 2 runs. And that should never happen. You can't miss a tackle. We miss a tackle and the ball goes for 26 yards. If you hit the ball, you make the play, it's a 5-yard gain. And then all of a sudden you go and you get the ball launched over your head because one guy's sitting on one coverage and there's nobody over the top of you. So it's all fixable, and it's just a matter of us just playing within the system. And guys get coaching it where you got to coach it and you got to coach it hard and you got to continue to coach it.
Back on the left, Chuck.
Charlie, what do you need to see in the next 2 weeks, and what will determine whether or not you take over the defensive play calling?
What we have to do, Chuck, is when we go out there, it's all about just demanding that things get done. And don't say to me, well, I told him, okay, if you told him something, either he's just saying, I'm not going to go do it, or I just don't care, or he don't understand it. So it's where we have to make sure that when we make a call or whatever we're talking about installing or whatever we want to play, the players understand. And the players do. And because one thing about the players, they want success, and they want to do everything you ask them to do. So it's just a matter of us just making sure that you demand it, and what you're demanding is it's all about excellence, and we getting it accomplished.
Charlie, the emotional pendulum swings pretty drastically here. I mean, 4 days ago, everybody's riding high, and then one ball game. How do you keep the guys kind of grounded between the euphoria of 2-0 to what happened Saturday night?
But I was telling them, Roger, after the game, I said that's what you guys have been riding that wave, and it's almost like you got caught up in that wave. And then that's what you can't do. You can't get caught up in the wave. And, each game is you got to be able to go out and you got to be focused and you got to have the discipline and you got to be locked in. And I sometimes, and I look at it as it's something very simple, but it's something that you have to really get the players to understand. And whatever we do, we always travel in a coat and tie, whatever we do. So I said, okay, this is a 3.5-hour plane ride. So since it's a 3.5-hour plane ride, I'm gonna let you guys wear your sweatsuit. And for some reason, and it's mental, and it's something small, but I go back to that and I say, you know what? I don't care if we're traveling 800 miles, they will get on the plane in a coat and tie next time. Because it's just your whole approach to things. And I think the way they see it. So sometimes, when you get in a shirt and tie, well, coach may not think this is that important. So, okay, we can go out here and kind of just, but it's something simple as that. And to me, it's a big deal. And I almost made them do it. And then I'm sitting there like, well, you're on a plane for 3.5 hours. And how comfortable they going to be in a shirt and tie? But when I want everybody to look the same. I want us all to dress the same. I want us to carry the same. We say it's a business trip. So whenever you go to a business, you feel like, hey, it's a coat and tie. It's an interview. I say every game's an interview. So what do you wear to an interview? Shirt and tie. But I talked to him about that yesterday morning. I said, but that's my fault.
Here on the left, Danny.
Charlie, would you say it's a benefit or, I guess, a detriment to have this bye this week as opposed to maybe sometime during the conference schedule?
Well, it's early, Danny. I mean, it's after the third game, and wherever they place it, if it had been down the road a little more, it could have helped because then you could have got your split. But now you got to go 9 in a row, and that's what's going to be tough, where you have to go 9 in a row. Because if you get injuries, it's going to be hard to really get them back to the next week where they don't have a chance to kind of sit and rest. But that's the way the schedule is, and that's why we have to take it on.
Far right, Anwar.
Coach, I know you said that everything could possibly be fixed on the defense, but Vance has had pretty much the entire offseason to get the defense right, it's still struggling. It struggled last year. With your history of success as a defensive coordinator, my question to you is, why don't you just take over the reins and do what you've done, to get you to this point?
Well, we have not only me, but there's other guys sitting there in Ward that has the capability to take over that defense. But I'm gonna say this, and I will. It will get fixed. The defense will get fixed. So we can. I can tell you that it will get fixed, and whatever I need to do to get it fixed, it's gonna happen. But we'll get it fixed.
Coach, one of the earmarks of a good defense is forcing turnovers. You guys have not done that all year long, hadn't hit any breaks with that. Is that obviously a point of emphasis moving forward, right?
It has to be, Steve. I mean, you watch us launch the ball the other night. We don't get the ball turned over, and they get 2 from us. And as those 2 right there led to scores. But you had to be able to get turnovers, and you can't miss tackles, and you can't give up big plays. But turnovers is critical. When we talk about the plan to win, number one thing we always talk about, you have to play great defense. You have to play great defense. Turnovers is critical, where you got to either gain them or you can't. You can't give up a turnover. Playing in the red zone, you got to be really good and effective in the red zone on offense. You got to be able to stop people on defense, and then kicking game. Those 4 things that we always talk about. So we didn't play great defense the other night. We had no turnovers. Our red zone was poor, and our kicking game was average.
Yeah, I was curious about their quarterback rotation against Cal. Was that by design, and did Shane have any kind of head injury?
No, Shane didn't have any type of head injury hurt. He got hit early, and it was inside, around the rib area, so they wouldn't check him out. And then once he came back. Now, I would say this, he's a competitor, and he is tough now, because when he came back from that, he's like, "Say, you ready?" He said, "Yeah, just give me a few minutes. I'm ready to go back in the game." So whenever he said he was ready to go back in, then we put him in. But we just had to get him checked early. But he is, and he's good, and he's healthy, and right. And it was because we was running the ball. We felt like effectively we could run the ball against them. So so we went to the 18-wheeler package. We were able to get some runs in, because you look at it, we rushed for 300 yards, and so we felt like just let's let Shane calm down a little. Let's put these guys out there and let's try to wear them down some, which we were able to do.
Charlie, you're going to face 5 or 6 quarterbacks just as talented as Davis Webb in this conference. What do you have to do to get your secondary ready to succeed against those kind of quarterbacks?
Well, it's about, man, just making sure you get the right defenses in place, and it's coverage technique, but also it's pressure. We have to get pressure, and you can't let a guy just sit back and just hold the ball, and you got to come with pressure, and you got to make it uncomfortable. Just make the quarterback move his feet and make him move around in the pocket, and if you do that, then you give your secondary a chance, and then they can cover them. But if anything, it's all about just how we go into it, and our game preparation, and make sure, like I said, give them something they can do and just demand they do it. And if it's 1 or 2 calls, it's 1 or 2 calls. It doesn't matter. If they can do it over and over and over, then you got a chance to be effective.
Right here on the left, Mike.
Charlie, what exactly happened to Malik when he went out? Do you have any updates on him?
No, Malik was fine. He probably had I think he had a stinger, but he came back in. I mean, he was out a couple of plays and he came back in.
In the middle, Bob.
Any other injuries that came out of that game? And then second, how impressed are you with the running game with Deontay and Chris and the job they're doing?
The injuries, Devontae, I think, banged his head and he came out, and I think that's maybe the only one. And Shane, we always, we got to look at him inside with his rib. But other than that, those are only 2. And then the running backs, they've been impressive, and they continue to be. It's hard when you to tackle 2 backs when you can give them the ball and pound people the way we do, because you look at Devontae, you look at Chris Warren, it's hard to get them down. Then all of a sudden you go to 18-wheeler, and then you bring swoops in there. So you can wear defense down. And that's what we were able to do the other night. You felt like, hey, running the ball with that many yards, that you're going to come out there with on the right side.
Middle, Brian.
Charlie, going back to Malik for a second, both Malik and Wheeler, they're at the top of the tackle chart. I mean, they're clearly active.
Mm-hmm.
But, tackles and Malik's 1 sack, and that's kind of it. I mean, you need your players to be the stars that they are. Is Malik being that? Is he being the star that we think he is?
Yeah, but what happens to Malik, because where we place him now, and because of the what the offenses are giving us. So when we went into the Notre Dame game, he moved around a lot. So then when we played UTEP, then that's when you saw more of Hager and you saw Roach, because then we had a different package there. And then so when you got to this game with the dime package, he was rushing more, so he's outside some, but it was, the ball was getting out of there. So the thing about him is that we can move him around a lot because he is so talented where he can rush the passer, he can drop into coverage, but he's effective wherever we put him. But the thing about it, when you have a really good player like that, people are going to find out where he is. So now all of a sudden, wherever he's rushing from, he because of who he is, people are kind of turning the protection that way, and so now if they end up turning protection that way, then you got to be able to bring another guy from the backside like a Hager or a 32 that can go rush the quarterback.
Stay in the middle, Dennis.
Coach, you were talking about Buechele. Did you say it's a rib? Would he be ready to go if you guys were playing this week? And beyond that, you kind of mentioned it. How impressed are you with the way he kind of took his first shot as a college kid and stayed in there?
Oh, he got hit early, Dennis, and he came back in, so he's fine. It was early in the game where he got hit, but he bounced back in there. And the thing about him, he has a lot of toughness to him. And the thing that impresses you about him, he's one of those guys, he just have that confidence about him, and you just know that once you walk out there, that he's going to play well. I say with our young players, if you take Buechele, you take Roach, you take Hager, even though he didn't play a lot last year, but Brandon Jones, you know what you're going to get out of those guys, because you're going to get everything they got. Duvernay, those guys are going to give you everything they got, and they're going to play well. Colin Johnson, that's what you're going to get out of them.
On the left, John.
Coach, you said that this is a critical year for you, and now you're saying your coaches have to coach harder and smarter. Isn't that something you guys have already been doing, knowing that this is a critical year?
Yeah, John, we've been doing that. But, you lose a game, so we got to be much better than what we were.
Coach, I would assume it's easy to lead when things are going well. Now, what do you want to see out of your leaders after a loss? Well,
now it's just that you'll see who the leaders are, and then they really step up. But even when we met Roger yesterday morning, like Perkins stood up and said something, like you have those guys like a Boyette, they still are going to stand up and they voice their opinion, because they're frustrated and they know that we let one get away from us that we shouldn't have. And so the thing that they like to see happen is, hey guys, now this all counts now. So now let's take this experience, let's learn from it, and let's move on. But let's go get better, because we got to get better. There's a whole lot of areas we have to improve in. And I think with the leadership that we have right now, and even with some of the young guys stepping up, they sit and they know that we're talented, and we know that there's no reason for that to happen the other night. But we can get much better, and the leaders will step up.
Far right, Jeff.
Charlie, you mentioned Devin Duvernay a little bit ago. What did you like about what he did? He seemed like he played a lot in the second half, and then also, do you look at him as a permanent fixture on kickoff returns going forward?
Yeah, the thing Duvernay does is, he's good with the ball in his hands, and a couple of times when the kickoff return, he'll hit it up in there, and he has enough speed where he can run away from people. He'll be able to catch some balls. We played a lot on offense, able to catch some balls, but he's an unbelievable talent, and the thing he does is that he's got speed, he has athletic ability, and he can run away from people.
Stay on the right, Chip.
Charlie, offensively, looks like there was, you're trying to balance run, pass, tempo, not tempo. How's that going? And were there times where, when Buechele throws the pick on first down, where maybe you just pound it out? How do you balance it all?
Well, you scored 43 points, and Sterling does a great job with it. We were able to rush the ball for 300+ yards. So, the one pick that he threw, even one with Swoops had the guy open. I think he threw it high and it came off his hands. But offensively, we handled our business, and the thing about it is that even on offense, we know we can improve and get better, and that's going to happen. But we get the ball in the playmaker's hand on offense, which is fun, and that's why we're able to create the scores. They score, we match the score right away. It's with 24-14, and then we're driving the ball, and then that's one of the picks come. But we'll get much better on offense, and it'll be hard to slow down because we have that added dimension where we can run the football.
Back on the left, Kurt.
Charlie Sherrod Evans got burned a couple of times. What's the level of concern there, he being a senior, one of your older players?
Well, Sherrod, the one is when they threw the ball down our sideline, it was a coverage check. So number one, he didn't get back on top of it. But the thing about him, he's a smart player. So it's it's not so much that just losing confidence in him. He's been around a long time, and he knows this that he could play much better than what he did. But that was one. Then he missed a tackle. But you still have confidence in him. Just after one game or just him having the breakdown that he had, he knows he can improve.
All right, thanks, gang.
All right, thank you.